I think it's fairly common knowledge that there are a lot of languages in the world, over 7,000. Now, the main reason why this many languages exist is because when people speak to members of their own group rather than people of other groups, their languages tend to become more and more different from each. The main reason for this, at least historically, was geographic isolation, where people literally lived in different areas from each other, so it was easier for them to talk to members of their own group than people from outside. This can be very easily seen with the Romance languages, which were spread out all over the Roman Empire, and thus they became more and more different from each other. This is even more exemplified by Romanian, which was relatively geographically isolated even in terms of the other Romance languages. So they were more influenced by the Slavic languages around them and became one of the most divergent Romance languages. However, this isn't the only reason why one group's speech may vary from another. Sometimes a group isn't separated physically from another group and may even live in the same area, but they speak differently anyways because they still interact with their own group more than the outside group. This form of speech is known as a sociolect and is usually socially specific, especially to one community. As a result, these varieties often face discrimination and are often not used outside of the community, especially if the group is marginalized or persecuted in some way. An example is African American Vernacular English, which is used by Black people mainly in the United States. Lavender language is a sociolect that is specific to a queer community within another language community. The term lavender language is derived from lavender linguistics, which is the study of the speech of queer people, and lavender linguistics itself is derived from the fact that the color lavender, at least in the West, is usually associated with queer people, and also because it alliterates, so it sounds better. Now, there are two main reasons why lavender languages form. The first reason has already been discussed. Queer people tend to be a relatively isolated community within society, so they tend to interact with each other and their allies more than people outside of their community. However, this is not the main reason. That reason is that, unfortunately, across many cultures and countries, and in recent centuries, queer people have faced a lot of discrimination. Thus, having lavender languages was basically a necessity for these communities to survive and talk about their culture and other things safely without being discriminated against. Now, let's go through some examples of lavender languages. Let's start with probably the most widely known lavender language, which is Polari, which was historically used in England. Polari was used by both gay people and many other groups, such as performers, which already had a higher proportion of queer people than the general population. It began usage sometime between the 16th to 19th centuries and was used up until the 1960s. However, Polari declined during the 60s and 70s due to the decline of homophobia, and thus the lack of need to use it since it was safer to just speak English. Queer people themselves started considering it outdated as well, and many Polari terms and words became mainstream due to BBC, so it wasn't very secret anymore. However, something which I didn't know before researching for this video, Polari has been experiencing a revival during recent years. A notable feature of Polari is that it borrowed a lot of words from many different languages to muddle up the meaning so that other regular English speakers couldn't understand it. Many of these words were from Romance languages, such as French or Italian, but it also borrowed a lot of words from Romani. Jumping over to the Philippines, they have their own lavender language, which is known as Swartspeak or Salitang Bakla. It is used almost exclusively by queer people in the Philippines, so it has the advantage that if you hear someone speaking it, you almost know for certain that they are queer. Swadspeak is constantly and rapidly changing, and it is always dropping old terms and innovating new ones. It is based on Tagalog, with words from English, Spanish, Japanese, and often local languages in the area, since the Philippines is so linguistically diverse. Gael is an English and Afrikaans based lavender language that is used by queer black men in the urban parts of South Africa. It borrowed a few core words from Polari, so it has a few similarities with it. A thing that Gale does is that it flips the traditional gender hierarchy that is present in society. So they often use common women's names for certain words or for certain people, and even use female pronouns sometimes. There's also a Bantu-derived Lavender language spoken in South Africa called Isimumo, but it's not very well researched, so I wasn't able to put much information in this video besides its name. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a few new things. Goodbye and see you next time.